podcast.
Nope, I'm not falling for the trap. I'm not going to get mired down in this same old formulaic approach to things. We're not going to lead off here with the government shutdown like everybody else is talking about, like it's never happened before, like, oh, my God, the Republicans want to screw the poor again. Not going there, folks, not right now. We'll get to it at some point. And the reason is that Trump's handling this masterfully. The first Republican president ever pushed back on this stuff, and it's inspiring others. Paul Ryan. Look, I'm talking about the government shutdown. I intended not to do it, but I'm just going to make a brief thing here. Ryan just had his weekly press conference, and they've settled on a pretty good theory. Do you want to put the military out of business for what? Do you want to shut down the brave, courageous U.S. military? But the thing is that even if the government shuts down, it doesn't shut down, and it's not going to shut down. It's going to get done. I don't know how it's going to get done, but this is just a formulaic thing. It happens so regularly now, and the drive-bys are totally immersed in it for one reason, and that is they cannot wait, once again, to blame the Republicans for it. So given that, I want to start with something else. Greetings, my friends, and great to have you. We're here at 800-282-2882, and email, if you want to send an email, is lrushbo@eibnet.us. I want to start with economic news and some literally incredible things that are happening out there that are not, again, being reported widely in the drive-by media. First up, jobless claims. For those of you in Rio Linda, that's the people showing up at the unemployment office and signing up. Jobless claims in America have plunged to the lowest weekly total since 1973. This accompanies record low African-American unemployment. Not just the low for the year and not just for the low this century, record low African-American unemployment since it was first tabulated, which was in 1972. Barack Obama did not do this. George W. Bush didn't do it. Bill Clinton didn't do it. Nobody has done this. It's never been this low before. It's just barely over 6% African-American unemployment, and same for other minorities as well. Hispanic unemployment is also trending way, way down. But the overall filing for unemployment benefits plummeted to the lowest level in almost 45 years. And you want to hear how this is characterized by Bloomberg? They're trying to make it sound like bad news. U.S. filings for unemployment benefits plummeted to the lowest level in almost 45 years, in a sign the job market will tighten further in 2018. Now, I submit to you that your average low-information voter reading this will see job market will tighten further, and they will interpret that to mean it's getting worse, when it's just the exact opposite. The job marketing tightening means there are fewer jobs to get because so many jobs are being filled. And when that happens, it's called a labor market, meaning an employee market, meaning that the employee is more prized than ever and has more leverage than ever. When there's a shortage of people to fill jobs, that gives leverage to people who are in the job market and who have marketable and demonstrable skills. They have the ability to demand more. So this is all good news. And yet, in a sign, the job market will tighten further, meaning the job situation is going to get even worse as this year goes on. It's its irresponsibility. Now, they wouldn't admit this. I'm sure Bloomberg is saying, no, we're reporting this accurately. No, you're not. You're not reporting this in standard, ordinary, everyday terms and words that people use. Anyway, the drop in unemployment claims shows that companies are increasingly, this is the next graph, listen to this. The drop in claims shows that companies are increasingly holding on to their employees amid a shortage of skilled labor. Businesses are struggling to find workers to fill positions, particularly in manufacturing and construction, as cited in some anecdotes for the Federal Reserve's beige book released yesterday. That's all good news, and they reported that pretty much accurately. Struggling to find workers to fill positions, but in what sectors? Manufacturing. Manufacturing. I thought we were losing manufacturing jobs. I thought factories were closing, and I thought those jobs are never coming back. I don't know what Trump thinks he's going to do. Wave a magic wand. But those jobs, I'm sorry to tell you, your jobs ain't coming back. It's just the way it is. That's why we got to go global. Global. Well, they're coming back. Manufacturing jobs, construction jobs, that means things are being built. The figures suggest the unemployment rate of 4.1%, already the lowest since 2000, could be poised to decline even further. Now, yesterday we broke the news here of Apple and what they are intending to do directly because of tax reform. And Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, has admitted that it is because of the Tax Reform Act that they are repatriating $250 billion. Almost, what is it? 2/3 of Apple's business is international. It's either 2/3 or 75%. They sell a tremendous amount of product all over the world. And they sell a ton of product in America, of course, but when you add all the products sold in all the other markets, it's a tremendous amount of money. And they had $260 billion parked overseas as a result of sales overseas that they were not bringing back to the United States because of the high corporate tax rate of 35%. Tax reform includes a one-time repatriation rate of 15%. So Apple has decided to bring back $250 million. They're going to repatriate almost all of it at a tax rate of 15% instead of 35%. And even at that, Apple will be paying $37 to $38 billion in taxes, even at a 15% rate on their $260 billion. And they're doing this happily. Apple is also going to inject $350 billion into the U.S. economy. They're building a new campus somewhere. They haven't announced what state. The only thing they've said is it will not be in California or Texas. They're going to be hiring 20,000 American employees above and beyond the 150,000 employees they have now. This news has not yet appeared on CNN. It has not yet appeared on MSNBC. I don't know if it's shown up on the New York Times or the Washington Post, but ABC's World News Tonight did a 6-minute feature on this last night, featuring an interview with Tim Cook in Reno, where they were breaking ground on a new data center. Why not mention this? CNN, MSNBC, no mention of the records set on Wall Street yesterday, or of the decision by Apple to bring billions of dollars of cash back into the country, which is going to result in $38 billion in taxes paid to the federal government. And make no mistake, millennials like that. The government being funded means more compassion. The government getting more tax revenue means more sensitivity and more compassion and more sustainability and all of that yuck. So why not mention this? And the reason's very simple. CNN's not talking about it. MSNBC is not talking about it because it's all because of Trump. It's all because of Donald Trump and the Republican tax cuts. And remember, CNN's had guest after guest after guest saying that it cannot be proven that lowering the corporate tax rate will give more money to American workers. They've had guests, panels upon panels of supposed experts claiming that this is not going to happen, and yet it has happened, and it is happening. We're up to almost 200 companies now extending bonuses. Apple's bonus, you know what their bonus is? Every employee gets $2,500 essentially of stock options, which at Apple's stock price ain't bad. It's $2,500 reserve stock units. essentially, but they're extending stock options to employees, $2,500, in addition to other benefits and the otherwise overall company expansion. And look what's happened in addition to that. Here we are lowering the corporate tax rate in this one-time repatriation rate, 35% to 15%. And what's the result? The government is getting $38 billion it didn't have at a 35% tax rate. Now, CNN and MSNBC and every other liberal economist out there tell us that cutting taxes will never raise money for the government. Cutting taxes doesn't do that. Cutting taxes costs the government money, they say. Cutting taxes is irresponsible. It's trickle down. It doesn't work. Well, right here, millennials, $250 billion Apple had parked overseas helping nobody but Apple. Trump Republican tax reform comes along, one-time repatriation tax rate, not 35%, but 15%. Apple says, hell yes, we'll bring it back. $250 billion brought back that would never have seen the United States light of day, and $38 billion of that goes to the precious, devoted United States government. They would have never seen it had there not been a tax cut. Real life, the real world, has demonstrated once again the folly and the lying that is routine for the Democrat Party and the American drive-by media. And if you don't believe me, grab audio soundbite number 18. We have a little excerpt here from Tim Cook's interview on ABC's World News Tonight with Rebecca Jarvis. And here's what he said.
No, there are clearly, let me be clear, there are large parts of this that are a result of the tax reform, and there's large parts of this that we would have done in any situation.
So it sounds like President Trump's tax bill has been a huge windfall for Apple.
I do believe the corporate tax side will result in job creation and a faster growing economy.
Now, did you note her question? So it sounds like President Trump's tax cut's been a huge windfall for Apple. You want to talk about obstinance and blindness? Apple is extending every employee, and they have over 100,000 of them, a $2,500 stock bonus, number one. That means that $2,500, if these employees hold on to that stock and Apple stock continues to skyrocket, that $2,500 is going to be worth a lot more than $2,500 if they hold on to it. And this is somehow a windfall for Apple. A windfall for Apple. Apple has pledged to inject $350 billion into the U.S. economy. A windfall for Apple? Only in the sense that that money they're investing is going to grow the company. Yeah, what is this windfall for Apple? They just paid $38 billion in taxes they would not have otherwise paid. But this info babe thinks this is a windfall for Apple. It's a windfall for the United States. It's a windfall for American employees of Apple. It's a windfall for the United States government, for crying out loud. Everything we've always told you about tax cuts, raising revenue for the government. And it again raises the question, why do liberals not care about this? They claim to care about deficits. They claim to care about responsibility and all of this. Why, when government is getting so rich, why, when a tax cut generates more revenue to Washington, do they not support tax cuts? Because they have calculated it's much easier to beat up corporations and the rich to the benefit of the Democrat Party than to talk about government growth. It's a toss-up for them. But it illustrates that all this concern about government not being shortchanged and government getting more money is really of no concern to them. It's just a talking point. So even after the question, so it sounds like President Trump's tax bill has been a huge windfall for Apple. Tim Cook said, I do believe the corporate tax side will result in job creation and a faster growing economy, which, if you're the CEO of Apple, is great news, because the better off the American people are, the more likely they are to be able to afford your products and other services. In a number of instances, Tim Cook lately, it's kind of interesting, Tim Cook lately has been thrown softballs from various members of drive-by media with an opportunity to just hammer Donald Trump, and that was another one. And he didn't take it. He didn't swing at the softball. He didn't lay into Donald Trump. And he very easily could have. Reason is, folks, this news is undeniable. This is going to grow companies. It's going to grow employment. It's going to grow the economy. And there's not a single Democrat that voted for this. Not a single Democrat in the country that voted for $350 billion U.S. investment, 20,000 new jobs, thanks to tax reform, $350 billion invested. You talk about a stimulus? This is half of Obama's porculus bill, and this one's real. $350 billion in U.S. investment, 20,000 new jobs because of tax reform. Not a single Democrat voted for it. Apple has committed to directly investing half as much money as Obama's ill-fated porculus bill. They're going to pay $38 billion in taxes they otherwise wouldn't have paid, happily. Every Democrat in Congress voted against what made this possible. Every Democrat in Congress has voted against what has triggered millions of dollars of bonuses for American people. Every Democrat in Congress has voted against the individual pursuit of happiness. Every Democrat in Congress preferred the government's greed over the generosity of private individuals and the companies they own and operate. Under Obama, what grew? Food stamp usage, health care costs, health care insurance costs, energy costs. What became better? Where was the prosperity during the 8 years of the Obama administration? It wasn't there for the average American people in the middle class. Under Trump, bonuses, wage increases, stock portfolios, disposable income, consumer business confidence are expanding to record highs. Unemployment is plunging to record lows, including African-American unemployment, and we're not finished. There's much more room to grow. This is just the beginning. This is just ignition. The Trump dividend is what this is, and it is sustainable. Food stamps or disposable income. What do you want? Well, you get to choose now. That's the beauty of elections. You want more food stamps? You want higher health care costs? You want to be told you have to buy health insurance that you can't afford? Or do you want more disposable income to choose your own decisions with your own money? How you vote. And, folks, while the drive-by media obsesses over Donald Trump every day, the bureaucracy, the administrative state is being dismantled. And it's not being covered because the drive-bys are so focused on Trump hatred. Last night, CBS Evening News, Major Garrett spoke with Scott Pruitt, the EPA administrator. And question was, what's the philosophy here? Do you want to protect business at the EPA, or do you want to protect the environment?
It's neither. I mean, our focus here should be on stewardship.
There are others who also wonder about those who have come from industry who are in leadership position here. Why should the American public be comfortable with someone coming from industry and into this agency?
I don't buy the paradigm, Major. This paradigm that says we have to choose industry over the environment or the environment over industry is the old way of thinking.
Bingo! And this is the classic leftist setup. The straw dog that private businesses, corporations are evil and they're destructive and they want to harm customers and damage the planet. And this guy's saying, no, we don't look at it either or. We're going to do both. We're going to focus on the environment and business because we can, and they are. Hi, welcome back. Great to have you, Rush Limbaugh, the cutting edge of societal evolution. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you that the special counsel, Robert Mueller, that whole investigation, because of something I read today that I consider to be blockbuster, it's by Lee Smith at tabletmag.com, and I'll be telling you about it as the program unfolds. And it not just because of this. I actually think that they're no longer investigating Russia collusion. I think the dossier has been now totally exposed for what it is, a fraudulent document that I believe now people understand that Russian agents actually wrote it. Do you know this Christopher Steele guy, who was the supposed author of the Trump dossier? Do you know, do any of you remember the name Alexander Yevtushenko? I'm sure you don't. But he was a Soviet/Russian agent who at one time became very vocally anti-Trump. He was poisoned to death in a London hotel lobby. He was with some friends and ordered some tea, and he ended up consuming polonium-235, which is basically an offshoot of uranium radiation. And he died a slow, ugly, painful death in the hospital. Turns out Christopher Steele, when he worked at MI6, ran that guy, was his agent. And Christopher Steele, we have learned, has run so afoul of Russian intelligence services, he has been banned from Russia for 20 years. He's not permitted in the country. And yet this guy is the source authority for the Trump dossier. And I was just watching a little bit on Fox during the break, and some well-known leftist is trying to sound like she is on the cutting edge. I think the Mueller investigation, I really believe that we're moving on now to obstruction. I think the collusion angle, I think Mueller is focused. The reason she said that is because she knows that there is nothing to, first off, collusion is not a crime. What they mean by it, Russia and Trump conspired to cheat Hillary and steal the election. And there's no evidence for it, and it's pretty much acknowledged now. It may not be reported. The drive-bys are not reporting this. But all the smart money inside the Beltway knows that has bombed out, that there's nothing there. And now everybody's in a CYA mode. It may even be that Glenn Simpson lied to Congress about some things in his his testimony last year that Dianne Feinstein just recently made public. But we'll get into that, hopefully, as the rest of the program unfolds. I mentioned earlier Paul Ryan at his press conference today, fighting back, finally, on this whole idea that the Republicans want to shut down the government, that the Republicans love shutting down the government, because the Republicans don't want welfare checks to go out. Republicans don't want food stamps to work. And Republicans don't want the poor to be taken care of, because Republicans are mean-spirited and extremists, all this. And usually the Republicans don't fight back. They figure there's nothing they can do. And whenever there's a government shutdown, they're going to get blamed for it. In fact, they have a habit of not fighting back for so long because they're just resigned to the fact they're going to get blamed, that they end up giving the Democrats everything they want to stop a shutdown from happening. But now there's a new sheriff in town. His name is Donald Trump, and he's not putting up with it. And this is inspiring other Republicans to join him on the battlefield. And the Republicans, as I mentioned, have come up now with a very effective message in this whole government shutdown business as they turn the tables on the Democrats. So you want to put the military on the shelf for a while? All you care about is 800,000 foreigners? You don't care about the United States military? You don't care about American kids? All you care about is 800,000 foreigners, the Dreamers, the DACA kids? Democrats are not used to this. Little Dickie Durbin, not used to what happened to him at the meeting at the White House. They're used to Republicans caving. They're used to getting away with lying and misrepresenting what Republicans say. But there's constant pushback now, and as I say, it's inspiring from the White House, and it's inspiring other Republicans. Here's an example, Paul Ryan and the tactic they have settled on.
They continue to hold military funding hostage over unrelated issues and deadlines that don't exist. Now they are threatening to shut down the government altogether over these unrelated issues. It is just unconscionable. Our men and women in uniform need our help. They need these resources so they can do their jobs and do it safely. Don't take my word for it. Here is what Senator Schumer himself said in 2013. And let me read you this quote. This is from Senator Schumer. Quote, "We believe strongly in immigration reform. We could say we're shutting down the government until you pass immigration reform. It would be governmental chaos." Close quote, Chuck Schumer, October 6, 2013. This strategy is governmental chaos. I could not agree more.
Right. Just nail it. That's what Chuck Schumer says. They want to shut down the government. They want the chaos because the Republicans traditionally get blamed for it. And the Republicans traditionally accept the blame for it. It's a win-win for the Democrats. So here's Paul Ryan firing back and saying, you guys want to shelve the military? You want to shut down the government altogether over unrelated issues? Over 800,000 foreigners or illegal immigrants, whatever you want to call them. So we'll see. The deadline is about 36 hours from now. And we'll see what happens, but we're on a different road. Now, I got to take a brief moment here, folks, and share some, well, I guess I'd call it personal information. I have not talked about this publicly, a new feature that we've added to the website, rushlimbaugh.com. But it's called Meet Rush, and it's for members only, but this is not a sales pitch. This is essentially a heartfelt thank you. What we are doing with Meet Rush, and the way you find it if you're a member, if you go to the homepage at rushlimbaugh.com, you'll see our iPhone icon. And on the iPhone icon homepage, there are various options that you can click on, various areas of our website. In the lower left-hand corner, you will see Meet Rush. Now, the reason for Meet Rush is that over the years, I've gotten emails from people who've said they've tried to call in but never get through, or they waited on hold for 2 hours and then the program ended. So what we instituted, we did this very quietly, and we left it up to website users to find this feature. We gave them a couple of hints on the website, but I've never talked about this on the radio until today. You click on Meet Rush, and you are taken to a page where you can, in 200 words or less, you can write whatever you want to ask me. In 200 words or less, tell us a little bit about you, a little bit about your life, and why you should be the pick of the week. And what we do is we pick the best ones, people who have intriguing questions for me or who have interesting stories about themselves and their relationship to the show, and then we establish a video conference connection with you if you are chosen. And in a room right down the hall here, in our Rush Revere headquarter conference room, we establish a video connection with all of those of you who have applied and have written in your 200 words or less. We pick some, and we get hold of you, we establish a video connection with you, and we interview you. And we learn from you what it is you like about the program, what the program is meant to you, and so forth. And if you have any questions for me that I then answer, and the reason that I wanted to mention this, I mean, it's going great guns, and I haven't even talked about it on the radio. Members are finding it. But we went through some of the questions last night that people are asking, and I was blown away. You people that are participating in this are asking me better questions than any journalist I have ever sat for an interview. You are asking questions that indicate you are totally invested in this program. I mean, the detail in the questions and your comments about the program, but specifically the questions that you are asking me, illustrate just how long you've listened and how closely you've listened and how aware you are. It blew me away last night as we're reviewing some of these questions. And many of them personal, but not prying personal. They were personal in the sense that you're concerned about me and my well-being and how I bear up under hostile attack and so forth. And I loved answering every question. There wasn't a single series of questions that I said, skip it, don't want to go there. It was essentially, if those of you that we are contacting and establishing these video conferences, if you got through on Open Line Friday, it would be one of the best Open Line Fridays we've ever had. The questions were that good. The questions enable me to explain or answer things about myself that I would never volunteer out of the blue, simply because it would not seem appropriate. But when answering questions about these specific questions, it's easy as pie and makes total sense. So I just wanted to take a moment here to thank all of you who are participating in this. Again, here's how it works. You go to the homepage. It's for members only, and I want to stress this isn't a sales pitch. This is a thank you. Because I was touched, and I'm stunned by who you are. The people who listen to this program. And I know you're there, don't misunderstand, but to see you, to learn how long you've been listening, what you do for a living, listening to what the program has meant to you over all these years, the things that you remember that happened 20 years ago that I may have forgotten, that I just love answering. So you go to rushlimbaugh.com, and on the homepage, you'll see the iPhone graphic. And in the lower left-hand corner of the iPhone graphic, there is what looks like an app on the iPhone graphic. It says Meet Rush, and you tap on that, and that's where everything starts. And that you'll have 200 words or less to tell us a little bit about you and your life and why we should pick you as the person with the opportunity to have a video conference with us. It's not with me. We have the Rush Revere staff and some of the others are conducting the interviews with the winners here. We're collecting the video, and there's disclosure agreements and all that. But this stuff is so amazing. We're actually conjuring up ideas for using this. It is the most. I can't, without getting specific, I can't impress upon you how dazzling this is. It is. I'll tell you what, it is mind-boggling to me to find out and learn just how closely and frequently and often you listen to this program and how much of it you remember. It's one of the most validating things that we've ever done. And it was all started simply to establish an even further connection between me and you in the audience. So I now realize we're going to be inundated. This is the first time I've talked about it, other than on the website itself. But have at it if you're interested in participating. And there's no cost, there's no specific prize or any of that, although there might be down the road. But there's just a heartfelt thank you for participating. It's a quasi-market research survey for us, but more than anything, it is a way to further tap into the bond, the direct connection that I and this program have with those of you who listen to it. And the videos that we are collecting, the people who are winning, being chosen every week to have a video conference with, I'm telling you, people are blowing my mind in the most upbeat and positive way with what you do for a living and how you incorporate listening to the radio show in your workday, in your leisure time. It's invaluable to know and to learn, and it is just heartwarming and touching to hear it at the same time. So one more time, rushlimbaugh.com. And I'm doing this just so you know what I'm talking about. Again, this is not a pitch to sell memberships to the website. It's a member-only service. iPhone icon on the homepage, look for the Meet Rush app, lower right-hand corner, and just click on it, and everything starts from that point. And it's incredibly hard. Every week we get, and now we're going to get even more, we get volumes and volumes of people who click on the Meet Rush icon on the phone icon there at rushlimbaugh.com, and we pick our favorites, and it is impossibly hard. They are all so good. 200 words or less about who you are and where you live and what you do for a living and what the program means to you. And any question that you have, any comment, whatever you want to say that you can fit in 200 words or less. And then we pick the ones to actually contact and have video conferences with. And it is next to impossible. We're sessions going on right now down the hall here. Highly overpaid, overworked staffers, overrated staffers are conducting these interviews even as we speak and going through the whole process. And I see them each and every afternoon or night. I got a review of some of the questions or comments. It just, as I say, better questions than any journalist has ever asked me about anything, including issues. And it's not even close. I want to grab a phone call, squeeze it in. Norm in Worcester, Massachusetts. Great to have you on the EIB network. Hello.
Good afternoon, Rush. How are you?
Just fine. How are you?
Oh, it's great to have talk with you. We've been on the same frequency for over 25 years. I go all the way back to the gurgling cod with Ted Kennedy.
The gurgling cod. Oh, yeah. That's my first trip to Boston. I remember that.
Boston's a great city. Hey, a couple of things. First of all, you mentioned the book by Brent Baer on Eisenhower, and I've been reading that, and there's so many analogies to Trump and what Trump's going through today with Eisenhower. And Eisenhower had his first cabinet meeting, or not cabinet meeting, but meeting with both the Democrats and Republicans, and he brought out some of the issues they talked about during the campaign. And he was told right away, the hell with that. We're not interested in what we promised in the campaign. We have an agenda, and this is what we're going to do. And he was shocked, and I think that's pretty much what Trump is going through. They all committed and promised to border, to taxes, and they didn't do any of it until the pressure came on.
Do you think this S-Hall thing is blown over? Or do you think, I mean, they tried to sandbag Trump with that. How do you think
here's a great point on the S-Hall thing. If whether he said it or not makes no difference. The fact that it was brought out on all liberal networks. It never would have reached there. People would not have.
He's exactly right. Yeah. It shut down the entire Democrat plan with one question and one word. That's exactly right. Fastest 3 hours in media. The first one has just zipped by. Democrats are still calculating how Hillary could still become president if the Russia probes finds any evidence. They won't. This just cracks me up. I don't know why, but it does. I'm looking for a soundbite to use here. Well, it's CNN. Let me see if I can find it here. Grab soundbite number 13. Soundbite 13 is Lindsey Graham, Senator, South Carolina. Greetings. Welcome back. You are tuned to America's real anchorman and the doctor of democracy and America's truth detector. All combined to one harmless, lovable little fuzzball here at 800-282-2882 if you want to be on the program. And I actually saw this morning. I was in the middle of doing show prep, and they had an interview with Lindsey Graham. And whoever conducted the interview at CNN, I don't know, so after this meeting that blew up the S-hole meeting and the sandbagging of Durban, do you think Trump's a racist? And Lindsey Graham said, no, he's not a racist. He doesn't make a single decision based on skin color or anything else. And CNN has had 3 different panel discussions on that comment since he made it. And they are running graphics all at the bottom of the screen. Senator Graham, Trump is not a racist. So here's the bite. This was Dana Bash was doing the interview, and she said, do you think the president is a racist?
Absolutely not. Let me tell you what. You could be dark as charcoal and lily white. It doesn't matter as long as you're nice to him. You could be the Pope and criticize him. It doesn't matter. He'll go after the Pope. He's a street fighter. It's not the color of your skin that matters. It's not the content of your character. It's whether or not you show him respect and like him. And if he feels like you're off script, you don't like him, he punches back. And as President of the United States, the only advice I can give you is that the street fight's over.
When he punches back at you, you lose. It's over. He's President of the United States. Now, Senator Graham has been attempting to cultivate a friendship with President Trump for many, many moons. You know, President Trump comes down here on various weekends and over the holidays, and the last 2 or 3 times he has played golf with Senator Graham. Senator Graham plays golf and enjoys it, and they've gone out, they've played golf. There have been other people in the group, but Senator Graham is asked to be there on a couple occasions, and Trump has invited him on others, and it's been a get-to-know-you process, and it's worked. Senator Graham has gotten to know Trump. This is a very informed answer. It happens to be right on the money. And frankly, I don't think there's anything wrong. If you are impolite, if you misbehave, if you attack Trump for no reason, the fact he's going to hit back at you makes perfect sense. The reason it appears odd is that we haven't seen it in politics before. In politics, Republicans just take it. And I don't mean in a turn-the-other-cheek biblical fashion. They just take it because they think that's how they score points with independents. That's how they score points with people that might be Democrats, and they're trying to convince them to vote Republican. The Republicans have had this convoluted idea based on media coverage that they're hated and despised, and so they have to demonstrate they're not mean, and they're not loud, and they're not even opinionated, all to reject media coverage. Trump doesn't care about that. And Trump is demonstrating that the old Republican technique for dealing with this kind of criticism hasn't worked anyway. The way Trump deals with it does work. Now, it even backfires, though, on Senator Graham. This meeting, what has now been called the S-hole meeting, Senator Graham, in addition to cultivating his relationship with President Trump, desperately wants comprehensive immigration reform. It is probably the top of his list, and that if he could pull it off, it would be his life's dream achievement. And in that, he is on the same page as Senator McCain. Now, I'm not going to go so far as to say that Lindsey Graham has been insincere in his cultivation of Donald Trump, but I do believe that he has been cultivating Trump so as to have a better chance at persuading Trump on comprehensive immigration reform, which is amnesty, and not just for the dreamers and the DACA kids, but for everybody. And he might have been successful in certain ways, but not partnering with Durbin and not the way they did it. If you're Trump, let's look at this from Trump's perspective, which, by the way, nobody better qualified in the media than I am to look at this from Trump's perspective. So you have the Wolf Book. And the Wolf Book is filled with lies and exaggerations about Trump losing his mind, about Trump not wanting to win, about Trump not caring to win, about Trump not wanting to be president, about Trump being borderline insane, trending Alzheimer's, all of this. And I don't care what you hear about, well, that kind of stuff that goes with politics, you let it roll off your back, no big, not that kind of thing. So they decided that they had to present a different picture, because this book was written by a guy who was mistakenly granted limitless access to the West Wing. And there are 2 or 3 names that have popped up responsible for it, and among them is Steve Bannon. Some are saying Kellyanne Conway vouched for Wolf. Others are saying Roger Ailes vouched for Wolf before he died. I can't believe anybody vouched for Wolf. I can't. It boggles my mind. Half of Trump's staffing boggles my mind, but that's another story. The Wolf Book was written because Wolf had the access. And we now know that Wolf lied. He lied to Trump. He lied to everybody. He lied to Bannon. Yeah, I'm the guy that can write the favorable profile. I'm the guy that can refute all this trash being written about you in the drive-by media. And Wolf gets in there and writes this absolute travesty of half-truths, made-up things, outright lies, and all of it negative. So the decision was made to refute it. Ergo, the 55-minute televised immigration meeting with Republican and Democrat leaders from both the House and the Senate. And it was in that meeting that Dickie Durbin is seated on Trump's right, Steny Hoyer on Trump's left, Dianne Feinstein across the table. And Trump is chatting amiably with everybody. He's not demanding anything. He's rejecting certain things that they put forth. But Dianne Feinstein, you know, when the Democrats figured out the media wasn't going to get kicked out, I think Dickie Durbin and Hoyer realized about halfway through they were being used as props. And it made them mad. Because it's got to be insulting and offensive as hell to be outsmarted by this guy that they think is a reprobate. They think this guy's a boob. They think this guy's stupid. They think that he's dumb. They think he's uninformed. They think he doesn't read. They think he doesn't care about anything. And the fact that he had outmaneuvered them and outsmarted them on nationwide TV blew them up. And I think they figured it. I'm watching, and I think I figured it out halfway through it. You can see Dickie Durbin's face change, and Hoyer too. And Trump's just being cooperative as he can be. And he's belying every assertion in the Wolf Book. He's human. He's real. He's accompanying. He's accepting, and he's accommodating, and he's cooperative, and he's polite, and he is encouraging, and all of these things. He's engaged. He knows what he's talking about. It was a totally different picture than the Wolf Book had put out. And Dianne Feinstein proposes a deal. Well, let's do a clean DACA bill right now, Mr. President, and then we'll come back and do comprehensive a short time after. And Trump said, hey, that sounds good. I could do that. And then Kevin McCarthy said, Mr. President, you don't want to do that. That clean DACA bill means there's no security in it, no border protection or wall or any of that. Trump didn't care. That's not why I told you from the minute that meeting ended, it wasn't about immigration. So Di-Fi proposes her bill, and Trump says, hey, okay, I can look at that. And then Trump further said, I'll sign whatever you bring me. I'll take the heat. I'm totally capable. I like the heat. I'll take the heat. We can't do this without you people in this room. You put it together. You bring me what I want, and I'll sign it. Anything you bring, I'll sign it. They fell for it. So Dick Durbin partners up with Senator Graham, and they walk into that meeting thinking after that televised meeting that they're going to get whatever they want because that's what Trump said. Trump said he'll sign whatever they bring him, that they're smart people and that he can't do this without them. And he'll take the heat. So Durbin and Graham brought him the wet dream comprehensive immigration reform bill that they have wished for since the Bush administration. And it promptly got blown up out of the water. Before that happened, Durbin and Graham walk in and they see the arch enemy, Stephen Miller. They hate Stephen Miller, Trump assistant, Trump aide. He's very much anti-illegal immigration. And there were some Republicans in there. And for some reason, Dick Durbin thought that it was just going to be him and Graham, and they're going to be walking in there and presenting this to Trump, and Trump's going to go, fine and dandy, I can live with that, and they're off to the races. And it didn't happen, and that's when everything blew up. And there probably was more profanity in that room than just that one word. And you might ask yourself, well, why is Senator Graham, why didn't he join this cacophony of people ripping into Trump for using the word or for misrepresenting or whatever? And I think the reason is, and I'm wild guessing here, so take it under advisement, but I think the reason is that they figured out Trump knew what they were up to. And Senator Graham doesn't want to be on Trump's bad side. He spent too much time now getting to know him and cultivating the relationship. Durbin doesn't care. Durbin's out there, said this, I've never seen anything worse. I've never heard anything worse. This is beyond the pale. This is the worst thing I've ever been part of. This is horrible. And this stupid chain migration comment scaring African Americans because all I can think about is coming over slave ships in chains and so forth. This descended into ridiculousness. But Senator Graham has not joined that cacophony of criticism. But what happened was that they brought Trump essentially a trick, and they were stunned that he didn't fall for it, and that's why Durbin was so angry and mad. And Senator Graham thinks it's still possible. That's why he's not doubling down, and that's why he's out there saying today, Donald Trump is not racist. You can be as black as anything or as white as anything. It doesn't matter. What matters is if you're nice to him. You could be the Pope and criticize him. It doesn't matter. He'll go after the Pope. He's a street fighter. It's not the color of your skin that matters. Isn't that basic human behavior? You're nice to people who are nice to you. You respect people who respect you. You work with people who eagerly, sincerely try to work with you, but people try to undermine you, people that lie about you, people that criticize you for their own gain, true or not. Why should you be nice to them? The Democrats are used to the Republicans buckling under and caving to whatever, but Trump is not the usual Republican, nor is he a creature of the swamp. So he continues to win against these people. And I want to circle back here to the tax cut. We spent some time in the previous hour describing the amazing decisions made by Apple. And Amazon, by the way, is now getting in on the act. Amazon is looking for new headquarters, 20 different cities. They're talking about all kinds of investment, too. Once one of them starts it, the others get right in line. I'm telling you, this economy just been ignited. We're not even anywhere near at full thrust yet. But I have a belief. The Democrats do not trust you. Big government types don't trust average, ordinary citizens to live their lives the right way, to make the right decisions with their money, to raise their kids the right way, to think about things in the right way. Liberal Democrats demand that they make decisions for people based on their contempt for average, ordinary people. It's part of the arrogant, condescending attitude that liberal Democrats have. Their utopia, by the way, is predicated on the fact that you have no choice. Their utopia exists only when they tell you what you can and can't do, and offshoots. See, I believe something differently, folks. And I've always believed this, but my belief in these things I'm going to share with you in a moment are the direct result of 30 years, 29 years doing this program with you as the audience. This is the best audience in media. This is for a whole bunch of reasons, but among them, you're the best audience in media for inspiring me about our country, its status, and its future. With people like you in it, I can't help but be optimistic. And I believe free people, constitutionally free, American definition of free, meaning we have a constitution that limits the government. The government cannot encroach on our life, liberty, pursuit of happiness by virtue of our founding documents. I believe free people are, by and large, there are exceptions to everything, virtuous. A free people, a free individual, will more often than not do the right thing, especially if it's rooted in self-interest. A mom and dad heading a family, making decisions for themselves in self-interest, are making decisions for the betterment of their family at the same time. And evidence of this can be seen with the massive number of bonuses and pay raises that are voluntarily currently being given by companies to their employees. What Democrats and millennials and leftists are raised with the belief, they're taught that corporations are evil, that they're mean, that they're not even really people, and that they only care about profit. They don't care about people. They shortchange everybody on health care. They make cheap products and they overcharge. And some companies make products that kill their customers. And some companies don't care if their customers get sick. And when their customers do get sick, they don't try to make them well. They try to cover it up. You know the drill. You know how. Corporations are destroying the planet. They're killing the American people and people the world over. They are depleting the environment of the polar bear. And you get the drift. This is how young liberal Democrats are raised. And so what is happening as a result of these tax cuts with we're up to 200 companies now, between $1,000 and $2,500 in bonuses and wage increases and higher starting hourly wages, expanded benefits. And I believe that's because of the basic virtue that exists here among a free people. These are voluntarily given bonuses and raises. The government's not making them do it. The government's not forcing this. Barack Obama didn't make this happen. He's not responsible for any of this. I have to take a break. I want to finish the thought before we go on to something else. Bottom line is the government got out of the way, and look at what happened. Government got out of the way, stopped micromanaging and controlling, and basic virtue occurred. These corporations did not have to do this. Nobody made them do this, from Apple on down to J.P. Morgan Chase. But they did it. And with what money did they do this? They did this with money that otherwise would have been sent to Washington via taxes. They didn't take this from the profit line. They got a massive tax cut, and contrary to what everybody in the mainstream media told you they were going to do with it, what they tell you, they're going to keep it. They're going to keep it for the shareholders. They're going to keep it for dividends. They're going to keep it for the CEOs. They're going to keep it for performance money. They're not going to give this to the workers. It never happens. And here it's happening with one of America's biggest corporations leading the way, Apple Incorporated. So what are these leftists going to say? And there's nobody that made them do it. Trump didn't make them. This was not part of the deal. No, don't misunderstand. I'm not saying that there's nothing inherently wrong with corporations. No, I'm not an idiot here, folks. I mean, no two things are ever the same. You've got bad people and good people in every group of people. My only point here is government got out of the way, and they ended up with more money from Apple alone, $38 billion, as a result of a tax cut. And people that work for these corporations are getting significant bonuses and wage increases. The companies did the right thing, companies that are doing this, with the additional money they had. Before we get back to the phones, I have a Trump soundbite on the government shutdown. This was this morning outside the Pentagon. Trump went over there, talked to military leaders, and had this. It's audio soundbite number one, and he had this to say.
You see what's happening with respect to jobs. You see what happened yesterday, Apple, and now it was just announced that they're giving each employee a lot of money. So our tax cuts and our tax reform has turned out to be far greater than anybody ever anticipated, and I'm sure the Democrats would like to blunt that by shutting down government. But again, the group that loses big would be the military. We'll see what happens. It's up to the Democrats.
Did you hear this little mangy reporter out there? Mr. President, are you responsible? If there's a government shutdown, are you responsible, sir? We hate your guts, by the way, sir. Do you know that? We think you're a reprobate. We think you're evil. We wish you would die. We wish you got a heart attack like CNN says you're going to. Are you responsible? We'll see what happens. It's up to the Democrats. Screw off. And with that, we go back to the phones because we got Justin here in Wareham, Massachusetts. You're next, sir. Great to have you with us.
Hey, Rush. How you doing? First time, lifetime. Nice to finally talk with you. I guess I have a two-part question. If in the event of a government shutdown, what would that mean for the American people? And the second part is, if they want to shut down, what's stopping us from just saying the heck with you and hiring someone else to do their job or electing somebody else to do their job?
You know, I love two-part questions. I love two-part answers. My favorite two-part question, why do men wear shoes? First part of the question is why. It's a great question. We've been asking a question why for decades, for the millennia. If we ever stop asking that question, we're cooked, we're finished, because why is how we get our answers. Do men wear shoes? Yes. So that's how it's. Your first question, what does it mean for the American people? Absolutely nothing. If it weren't for the media going nuts, you wouldn't even know that it's happening. The government technically never does shut down. This is no different than the Christmas recess or the holiday recess or the Easter recess or the ski weekend vacation recess. I mean, people leave Washington all the time. It may be that certain bureaucracies shut down for a while, but they always get their back pay. If anybody loses their money, if any government employee loses money, they always get their back pay. The first government shutdown of note was the budget deal of 1995, Justin, and it was Bill Clinton versus Newt Gingrich. And the government shut down, and the first thing that happened, CNN found the guy that ran the sleigh ride concession at Yellowstone National Park. And they had him on TV, and the guy was going on and on and on about how he couldn't stay in business because he ran the sleigh ride concession. If the government was not going to fund and keep the park open, that he couldn't give people sleigh rides. And, oh, my God, what am I going to do? And CNN made this guy the face of the government shutdown. Then they focused on bureaucrats who would not receive the Thanksgiving turkey that some of them get free of charge from the government. Well, guess what? The guy at the sleigh ride concession was repaid for whatever he lost, and all of those government employees that were shut down got their back pay and their Thanksgiving turkey. It just came later. It really is an exercise in semantics. There have been probably last 10 years, 15 government shutdowns. Do you think, can you recall anything dire that ever happened, even from the one from 1995? Can you remember anything bad that affected you when the government shut down?
No, not at all.
It is in truth, folks, a manufactured construct that really has, in the modern era, its origins in that budget deal of 1995. And the reason for that was the Republicans won the House in 1994 for the first time in 40 years. And Bill Clinton was on TV talking about how he was still relevant, that just because the Republicans won didn't mean he was powerless. And a big, big power fight emerged over this. And Newt Gingrich rolled the dice and insisted on certain things that the president, at the time Clinton, decided to shut down the government over. And that's when we began to get stories that school children were starving because the school lunch program was suspended with the government shutdown. It was all made up. It wasn't made up, but it was amplified. It was lied about. The Democrats had a program where school kids from New Orleans were writing letters to Republicans. Please, Mr. Congressman, I will starve if I don't get lunch. I can't learn when I'm hungry, Mr. Congressman. How could you take money out of the mouths of food out of the mouths of children? It was all manufactured. Now imagine, Justin, you have a couple of kids that go to school, and there's a government shutdown. That means the school lunch program suspended for a couple of days. Are you going to let your kids starve? And then you're going to go on TV and blame the Republicans for your kids starving, or are you going to find a way to feed them, which is your responsibility in the first place?
Right. You just send them to school.
It's become an annual, predictable political exercise that is orchestrated by the Democrat Party. And the strength of it, the value of it, resides in the fact that the Democrats over the years have convinced more and more people that life cannot be normal with the government shutdown. They have convinced people more and more that government is the center of life in America, that government is the heartbeat, that government is the pulse. And without government functioning, with proper Democrats in positions of power, the country cannot survive. And there have been a lot of young Democrats grown up, been taught this, and they believe it. Now they're adults, and they still believe it. This is why the Republicans never push back against it, because they feel they can't win. So whenever the Democrats in the past have threatened government shutdown, the Republicans cave. They unilaterally cave and promise us, the people that elected them, that they'll stick it to the Democrats the next time. The next time the continuing resolution is due for renewal, we'll stick it to them in March. And it never happens. This is the first time that there is pushback by the Republicans on the government shutdown. This is the first time Republicans have gotten aggressive with it, led by Trump, blaming it on the Democrats. It's never happened, Justin. It's never, well, that's not, there have been Republicans that have tried to, but they couldn't break through the noise because they were not president. Trump is president and can cut through the noise. And that's inspiring Paul Ryan to join him. And so their theme now is, the Democrats seem to care more about 800,000 foreign children than they do the American military, than they do American kids. This is an aggressive pushback. And I think that it's working because it's driving Nancy Pelosi literally nuts. Grab soundbite number 26. Pelosi had her briefing, her weekly press briefing on Capitol Hill today. She was talking about the continuing budget resolution. Remember, this is because we don't have even yet budgets. The government is funded what's called a CR, continuing resolution. And in this way, we're able to beat spending caps that are in the law because they apply to a budget. A continuing resolution is just members of the House and Senate agreeing to fund the government for another 3 months or 6 months or however long they can agree to do it, but always expires and needs to be done again. And when every continuing resolution expires, and one is expiring Friday, here comes, the government's going to shut down, the government's going to shut down. There have been so many government shutdowns in the last 30 years, and you can't remember one. I mean, you generically. Even the 95 budget deal, you can't remember unless you missed the sleigh ride at Yellowstone Park. And even after that government shutdown, the Republicans did not lose any seats in Congress. It did not harm them being blamed for shutting down the government. But you can't convince them. But now there's a new sheriff in town. Things are happening a different way as far as political messaging. And listen to this. I mean, they say Trump's losing his mind. They say Trump's borderline Alzheimer's, dementia. You tell me what this is.
This is like giving you a bowl of doggy do, put a cherry on top, and call it a chocolate sundae. This is nothing. This is the chip. This chip should have been done in September. First of all, second of all, we wanted 10 years. We wanted permanent chip, which, by the way, saves $6 billion. The Republicans rejected that.
Okay, so here's Pelosi talking about a bowl of excrement with a cherry on top. A bowl of doggy do. Put a cherry on top, call it a chocolate sundae. That's what the Republicans are offering here. This is nothing. This is nothing. You know the chip. This should have been done in September, first of all. It was. And it's expiring. And I don't even know chip. There's a children's health program that's funded, by the way, with tobacco taxes. I don't know if this is the acronym for it. It's close. She may not know what she's talking about, is the point. Unless, I'm sure she knows what a bowl of doggy do is. If she's enough of that in San Francisco where she lives. So basically what you have here, led by President Trump, is an anti-shutdown message, blaming the Democrats for it. And the message is Democrats are putting 800,000 illegal immigrants ahead of active duty military members. That's what this is about. That is essentially what Paul Ryan was saying in his press conference just before noon. That's what Trump said outside the Pentagon today when he went over to the military. And every Republican from now till the end of this battle over this continuing resolution needs to say the same thing, be on message. In fact, they might even want to run an ad. Shouldn't be hard to put together. This is the Democrat Party. They are the anti-prosperity party. They are the anti-security party. They are the pro-illegal immigration party. They are threatening to hold national security hostage, potentially costing the economy billions of dollars, forcing hundreds of thousands of federal government employees to go without pay, although they will be paid, in exchange for securing legal protections for 800,000 illegal immigrants. But that's the message. That's what the Democrats want. And they've always gotten their way up till now. They're holding national security hostage, potentially costing the economy billions of dollars. They're forcing hundreds of thousands of precious federal government employees to go without pay. They are disrespecting the U.S. military, all of that in exchange for securing legal protections for 800,000 illegal immigrants, but potential Democrat voters. That needs to be the way they cast this. And Trump is doing it. Folks, again, the government doesn't really shut down. Not the way the word implies. It does not close. Entitlement checks or deposits continue. There's not a welfare recipient out there that will not get his welfare. There's not a food stamp recipient that will not get his debit card. There's not a Social Security recipient who will not get their check. There's not one interruption to any entitlement payment to anybody. They do not lock the government, and it does not cease operations. The president gets up and goes to work, and the House and Senate will get up and go to work. It's a political construct created by the Democrats, aided and abetted and amplified by the media, to try to demonstrate Republicans hate government and hate all that government does for people. And only government does things for people in the Democrat world. And so when government shuts down, people are hurt. When government shuts down, people are in pain. When government shuts down, people are locked out of resources and benefits. And that is the lying, stinking political message that the Democrats and the media promulgate, that the Republicans heretofore have felt there was no way they could beat it back. There was no way they could overcome it, so they had to acquiesce to it. That day apparently is over. We shall see. In the meantime, Hudson County, New York. Janet, great to have you with us. How are you?
Great, Rush. Thank you for taking my call. Please bear with me. I'm very nervous.
Well, you don't sound it. You don't sound nervous at all.
Okay, thank you.
You know what you need to do? You need to pretend that I'm there in the same room where you are on the phone, and that I have a mink glove, and that I am rubbing your shoulders with the mink glove. That's how pleasant this experience is going to be.
Great. So I had a glimmer of hope last night, other than your show. My husband and I were out to dinner in a small town in Hudson County, New Jersey, which is very, very liberal in one of the most corrupt counties in the country. So we're at the bar waiting for our table, and Donald Trump pops up on the CNN monitors, and a conversation ensues about Trump. And everybody was so excited.
Wait, conversations with you, or you mean people on CNN began talking?
No, conversations at the bar.
At the bar.
Patrons at the bar when they saw Trump on the monitor.
Okay.
And everyone was excited. All Democrats. Of course, in one breath, they would say they didn't like Trump or he wasn't smart, but they loved everything he was doing. Their 401ks were up 19, 23, 26%, and they couldn't wait for the next few months to see what was going to happen with these tax cuts. So I was so excited just to hear that, because you don't hear that in Hudson County.
But even in the midst of that, they had to make it clear to you that they still don't like Trump, that they think he's an idiot. They had to tell you that, but they could not hide their happiness over their improving financial circumstances.
Exactly. I was going to.
So did you think they were softening any on Trump? Is that what you want us to know? Is that why you called? Do you think there might have been some ground broken here? These people might be open to changing their minds about Trump. Is that what you think?
Yeah, I think that the Democrats aren't fooling anybody.
Well, now, this is anecdotal information, and by that I mean there's nothing scientific. We can't extrapolate this, but here we are in Hudson County, New Jersey, in a bar, and Trump's face shows up on CNN, and a bunch of Trump-hating leftists begin talking about how great their 401ks are doing and how excited they are for what tax cut will mean the rest of the year. Instead of, I hate, and a bunch of vitriol and insults and demands that the TV be turned off. Who knows what it could ultimately mean? But if the sight of Trump among leftists reduces the amount of hatred and vitriol, there may be something possible happening out there. So I got an email. Rush, seriously, a mink glove shoulder rub? I don't know what you're thinking. That sounded like you're sexually harassing the caller. Come on, folks. You got to be more mature than that. We don't do sexual harassment on this program unless I'm the one being harassed. It's not a problem. Hang on here just a second, folks. I just got a flash news story from ABC News that I just read the headline. I'm just printing it out now. I don't think it's going to be that hot. By the way, we finally got a printer that works. been since last June, so June, July, 7 months. Every time I went to print something, I had no confidence it was going to print. It might shut down the printer. It might print only the subject line, the headers, and so forth. It has been a nightmare. And we've been working with the manufacturer and with Apple for 7 months. And we finally said, you know what? Let's try a new brand of printer. So we got rid of the brand that we were using. We tossed it out, put a new one in there, and it's flawless. 7 months of troubleshooting. These are people just love the process. Can you send me the latest logs? And we'll go, no, I want it freaking fixed. I've sent you enough logs. We need more log data so we can... I can't tell you how frustrated I am. I've lost my mind 2 or 3 times a day in some instances. So anyway, I'm just sharing. It's such a simple thing as printing was something that became 100% unreliable, but now it's back. Here's the story. Republicans, it's an analyst piece, and it's from ABC News. Republican strategists say Democrats virtually certain to win House in 2018. Oh, you've seen this too? Republican strategists have turned decidedly pessimistic about their prospects for the midterm elections in November. Prominent Republicans are now saying privately. What do you mean privately? Are now saying privately the Democrats are virtually certain to win control of the House of Representatives. As one senior Republican on Capitol Hill told ABC News, if the elections were held today, the House would be gone. Yeah, except the elections aren't today. The elections are not for about 10 months. Another prominent Republican strategist working on the midterm elections went further, telling ABC News point blank that Republicans will lose the House and that this prospect is unlikely to change. The only question is whether the Democrats win narrowly by picking up 25 seats or whether it is a blowout of more than 35 seats, the strategist said to whoever is the author of the story. Allies of President Trump are convinced that the president will quickly face impeachment hearings if the Democrats take control of the House. Well, that's true. That's what Mueller's doing. Mueller's preparing the case right now. This investigation with Mueller is going to go on and on all through the year. And if the Democrats win the House, within hours, Mueller will present his findings. And the investigation will be announced as over. One Republican close to President Trump predicted that not only will there be impeachment hearings, but that the prospects of a conviction in the Senate are quite likely. The Trump ally said, consider what happened to Bill Clinton. Clinton was disciplined. He had a strategy and still he was impeached, but he wasn't convicted. How many people do you think know that impeachment does not mean you get thrown out of office? What do you think the odds are that 80% of the American people think that if you impeach a president, you've gotten rid of him, that he's gone? 80%. Well, I'm here to tell you, impeachment's not good. Don't misunderstand, but impeachment doesn't mean the president's gone. Impeachment means essentially that the House of Representatives has indicted the president for high crimes and misdemeanors. And that case has to be presented in a trial at the United States Senate. So the question would be, well, who runs the Senate? If the Democrats run the Senate, almost guaranteed to get a conviction. If the Republicans win the Senate, well, depending on the majority they have and how many flaky Republicans there are, there still could be a conviction. But the bottom line is, now, it's been standard operating procedure among the drive-by media that the Democrats have already won the House. How often have we discussed that on this program, folks? It's the Democrats are operating on the theory they've already won. Just a matter of time. Same exact mindset they had about Hillary winning in 2016. Just a matter of time. Just have to get the election. It's going to happen. It's automatic. And now they're thinking the same thing. Why do they think this? The Republicans we can factor in a minute, but why do the Democrats think it? They believe all of this cockamamie BS they report. They believe there was Russian collusion. They believe Trump stole the election. They believe Trump obstructed justice by firing James Comey. They believe the things in the Trump dossier. They believe that Trump is guilty of financial crimes that have yet to be uncovered. They believe that Trump is unqualified, unfit, and is borderline insane. They believe that they have convinced a majority of Americans to also agree with all of that. They believe that the vast majority of the country has become left-wing progressive and realizes the mistake they made electing Trump and can't wait to throw him out. They would have to wait till 2020 to do it, but if they give the Senate and the House to Democrats, then the Democrats can get rid of Trump, and the media has told themselves that a majority of Americans want precisely that to happen. The Democrats, you know, I held a story from yesterday about what do they have to run on. They don't have anything to run on but what I just told you. They have nothing to run on. They're going to be running in a boom economy. And not a single Democrat is on record as having voted for the tax cut or anything else that led to the booming economy, that people earning more money, paying fewer taxes, prosperity on the rise, energy prices coming down. They're going to be running in that climate on the basis that Trump is unsafe, is unqualified, is over his head, doesn't know what he's doing, and poses a dire threat to the safety and existence of the planet. And they think that that's a slam dunk winner. Now, who are these Republican establishment guys? Who are these analysts? They're not named in the story that I have, so I'm not going to guess. I mean, I have my ideas. But if they are Republican establishment types, they, too, are engaging in wishful thinking. Why would they be telling ABC this? Why would they be out there whining and moaning and wringing their hands if they really think it's true? They must want it to happen. These guys allowing themselves to be quoted are probably from the group that wants Trump to lose, or rather wants the Democrats to take back control of the House to get rid of Trump. Now, even if Trump isn't impeached, the thinking goes that he's effectively powerless. With the Democrats running the legislative branch, there is literally nothing Trump could do. And they will stop him on virtually everything. This assumes that every Trump voter or enough Trump voters will not show up in November. They're relying on so many standard theories, such as the party in power loses seats in midterm elections, and on balance, that's true, but there are recent exceptions. In 2002, the Democrats were behaving roughly the same as they are behaving today. The Democrats lost seats in the 2002 midterms after the Wellstone Memorial, after thinking they had it all boxed up, after thinking they had convinced everybody that George W. Bush was fraudulent, didn't really win. Supreme Court stopped the recount that would have given the election to Gore. It's almost a recap. In fact, I'm going to make another prediction to you on the economy. How did it start out? We had the audio soundbite montages side by side. How did it start? It started out with everybody in the media claiming there's no way that corporate tax cuts are going to benefit average Americans, that corporations do not pass along their tax cuts, that they save them for themselves or their shareholders. Everybody, every drive-by media person except on Fox and every one of their guests, for weeks leading up to the vote on tax reform, told their audiences that there is no way that you average Americans are going to get anything out of this. This is not for you. You're going to get crumbs. Well, now we learn that 90% of the American people are going to benefit. Starting next month, they will have more take-home pay. 200 companies are offering bonuses. You know the drill. So those bonuses are going to be taxed less. So people are going to have much more money every pay period starting in February. The Democrats are going to have to change their approach. How long is it going to be before they start calling Trump the president of greed? This is how they eventually attacked Reagan and the 80s. A decade of greed. And what did that mean? It meant the average American benefited tremendously from Reagan's tax cuts and ended up with much more take-home pay. And the media and the Democrat Party working together then began to label the 80s as the decade of greed, and there was something else, greed and... No, it wasn't greed and opulence. It was greed and some other horrible human characteristic. Greed and selfishness, I think it was. Selfishness and greed. People only cared about themselves. They only cared about more money, and the poor stayed poor, and the homeless stayed homeless. That's in their playbook. And we'll see how long it takes for them to move off of the nobody's going to benefit to we have become a nation of greed and selfishness, led by Mr. Greed himself, Donald Trump. More on this in the days ahead, maybe even in this program. But I want to get to Soundbite 24, Sarah Sanders. This is the daily press briefing. And John Roberts, ABC News, asked Sanders what she thought of Jeff Flake denouncing Trump from the Senate floor today, and McCain's statement saying that Trump should stop attacking the press. And that's basically what Flake said. Flake said this is just beyond the pale. We don't attack the institution of the media. That's what authoritarian regimes like Stalin did. We don't do it. And McCain sent a letter out basically backing up everything Flake said and attacking Trump for daring to attack the great institution known as the press. So John Roberts wanted to know what Sarah Sanders' reaction was. This is what she said.
In response to Senator Flake specifically, I found it quite interesting that he is coming out to attack this president, considering he's one that was recently defending an actually oppressive regime. He went to Cuba a few weeks ago and served as a mouthpiece for the oppressive Cuban government. He's not criticizing the president because he's against oppression. He's criticizing the president because he has terrible poll numbers. And he is, I think, looking for some attention.
I think she has a point. I think, and I was telling this to Mr. Snerdley. Mr. Snerdley and I routinely discuss political matters. Mr. Snerdley's got it down pat. He says, that's right, that's right, that's right. And when I ask him what he thinks, he tells me. And I say, that's right, that's right. So I said, why do you think Flake's doing this? He said, I don't know. What I think doesn't matter. What do you think? I said, well, I'll tell you what I think. I think Flake is ticked off. I think he's livid. I think he misread the tea leaves. I thought when he originally distanced himself from Trump that he would become a hero in Arizona, that he'd become a hero in the media. He'd become the new McCain, that everybody would love him because he made the mistake of thinking that everybody in America thought the same thing he was saying about Trump. And now he finds he can't even win a primary and get reelected as an incumbent, and he is livid and blaming Trump for it. Snerdley said, that's brilliant. That's exactly right. Anything else? And I said, yeah, there have to be some other personal things that just grate Flake about Trump. I mean, so many Republican establishment types. Stop and think of this, folks. Put this in perspective very quickly. You know as well as I do, for however long, the media has been hammering Republicans as mean-spirited, extremist, racist, sexist, bigots, homophobes, right? So the Republicans have done their best to prove they're not any of that. They have supported amnesty. They have offered to cross the aisle. They have offered to work together with the Democrats. They have offered to help make Washington work. They have offered to do what they can to show that Washington can work again, that people can work together. In other words, Flake and the rest of them have responded directly to the criticism the media and the Democrats forced on them. And did it work? No. They continued to lose favor in their own party. They became a bunch of powerless, ineffective placeholders. And along comes who? And starts running rings around the media and the Democrats. Donald Trump, who does everything the opposite of the way the Republicans have been told they have to behave and the way they have to speak. They have to be respectful. They have to be tolerant. They have to be understanding. They have to understand the liberals and the Democrats and the media run the show. And they did. They did all of that. It got them nothing. It got them reelected, but that was it. It got them nothing. And here comes Trump showing exactly how to do it. Somebody from outside, somebody who's not professional politician by training, therefore not an expert, and starts running rings around the media, around the Democrats, around every Republican that tried to stop him, gets elected president. You can understand how livid they probably are. The anger is that Trump succeeded. They have believed that you can't win and you can't triumph and you can't even make a dent by doing what Trump does. That's guaranteed death. That's guaranteed media destruction. And yet Trump is running rings around everybody and is enjoying it. That's my guess. There's probably a whole lot more in terms of explaining, but that's a pretty good start. Here it is. Here it is. Democrats search for winning playbook. By the way, folks, there's one other thing. Oh, try this headline. Donald Trump's support among blacks has doubled since 2016 amid racism claims. Trump's support among blacks, it's the same thing with Hispanics, not quite doubled, but his support among Hispanics and blacks is way, way up. Meanwhile, there's stories all over the place. Nerdly, have you seen these? That this real wacko, this extreme partisan Perez, the guy running a Democrat National Committee, that it's about to fall apart. Have you seen these stories? The DNC is about to collapse. And do you know why? Because of the ongoing enmity, anger, and rivalry between Bernie Sanders supporters and Hillary supporters. The Democrat Party's not unified. Now, they may be able to come together in anti-Trump hatred. I'm not, we're still way, way out. But the Democrat National Committee is about to collapse. And part of that is they can't raise any money. And in spite of all of these problems, the Democrats are just going to skate. It's over. Why, they may win in a landslide in November in the House of Representatives. And furthermore, this may be why the Democrats finally back out of trying to get anything done with the Dreamers or with DACA. They might be saying, you know what? We don't have to make a deal with Trump right now because we're going to win the Senate and we're going to win the House in November. And when that happens, we'll just be able to write our own bill and Trump will have no choice but then to sign it. So we don't even need to work with the guy now. We'll see if that eventually, if they really think they're going to win the House in 2018, why make a single deal with Donald Trump this whole year? Unless Trump caves and gives them everything they want. But in this instance, that's not happening. It's the exact opposite. Trump has pulled a rug out from sandbagged old Dickie Durbin and Lindsey Graham. So we shall see, folks. In the meantime, another obscene profit break here. Back before you know it. The decade of selfishness and greed. That's what they ended up calling the Reagan years. And that's what they're going to end up calling this year for the Trump administration when the tax cuts kick in. Then they're not going to be able to say that people are not benefiting. So they're going to have to criticize the fact that people are benefiting by calling it the decade of greed. People, in other words, elected Reagan because they were greedy. They wanted more of their own money. They wanted to deprive government services. They wanted more of their money back so the homeless would suffer and the poor would suffer and the sick would suffer and the thirsty would suffer. That's how it became that. Don't doubt me, folks. That's how they dealt with it, and it's coming Mark my words. In fact, make a note. Here we are, January 17th, 2018. Let's see how long it takes before Trumpism becomes a decade or the year, whatever, greed and selfishness. Here is Peter from either Rancho Moringa or Rancho Santa Margarita or Rancho Santa Manga. It's Santa Maria. It's Santa Maria. Is that where you're from?
No, actually, it's Rancho Santa Fe, Rush.
Rancho Santa Fe. Okay.
Just outside of San Diego.
Yeah. It says on my call board here, Santa Mari. So I was saying that could be anything. Santa Margarita, Santa Cucamonga, but not.
Well, come
Santa
on.
Fe. Anyway, here you are.
As my guest, you'll love the golf course.
Probably have seen it.
There have been a lot of pro tours there. But listen, your perspicacity is on a sale, but I think I have one for you.
Okay.
The press has, again, in my opinion, been outsmarted and outmaneuvered by the president. By requesting the cognition test and scoring the perfect 30 for 30, the president's mental state is no longer an issue. He preempted the press brilliantly. Imagine if this test had not been performed, and parenthetically, it has never been employed before in any other presidential physical exam. What would happen is the mainstream press would be doing nothing yesterday, today, every day for days in the future of saying, well, the president is healthy, but his mental state is still a question. That's now not an issue.
Well, but not entirely, because the drive-bys are questioning the veracity of the test and the doctor reporting the results. And there's even a story. Now, Peter, listen to this. Here's a story in the Washington Post. Trump's cognitive test was created by a Lebanese immigrant to Canada. The Washington Post thinks that somehow disqualifies it because Trump hates immigrants. Right? Trump hates immigrants of color.
That test is unassailable.
Well, you're talking about abject truth here, which the drive-bys don't accept. They can report whatever they want. This is the problem. You got the test 30 for 30. He aced it. They make a big deal out of it. But I can point you to any number of Yahoo News stories today or tech blogs or wherever you want to go where the focus of this is the doctor may have lied or the test may not be all that good, that it was created by a Lebanese immigrant to Canada. And, of course, the Post is trying to say, well, that Trump can't rely on that. He hates immigrants. He hates immigrants in Lebanon. He hates the Middle East. And so they're trying to point out irony in this. Washington Post really thinks they have a killer point here. They think they've disqualified it because the creator of the test is a Lebanese immigrant to Canada, and Trump hates immigrants. And for all we know, he may hate Canada.
And my point is that had he not done this, that is all we would be hearing about is his mental state is still a significant question.
No, I hear you.
He totally outmaneuvered him.
Well, in this, okay, you're right. He ran a perfect scam on him. He thought to include, in fact, the doctor even mentioned the fact that they don't normally do this cognitive test in presidential physicals. They just don't do it. And the doctor said, the only reason we did it is the president demanded that I do it. The president asked to take the cognitive test. And so he aced it. He got 30 out of 30. He is in perfect health. And the wind went out of the sails in the press room. But it's not going to stop them from questioning his mental fitness. It's not going to stop them from talking about the need for the 20. They're always going to be able to find a Harvard law professor or some doctor of shrinkology at some bogus, obscene, out of the university to claim that Trump is exhibiting the signs of whatever. Or somebody in the drive-by media who's just going to rain all over the test and claim it's illegitimate, that the doctor phonied it up because Trump demanded that he do so, and the doctor is a Trump fanboy, and so they're basically going to cast aspersions on the honesty and the integrity of everybody behind this physical. They're not going to let go of this stuff. I mean, you're right. Had Trump not done this, that's all they'd be talking about, but it isn't going to stop them from doing so. I appreciate the call, though. Thanks very much. I'm glad you waited, too. I appreciate your patience, Peter. Democrats searching for winning playbook. This is The Hill, and it's written by somebody, Amy Parnes. And it begins this way. Democrats are feeling increasingly confident about their chances of winning back the House and Senate in November. After surprising victory in Alabama's Senate election, the Democrats feel like they have momentum. There are, by the way, a lot of significant Republican retirements. And some of these Republican retirements are committee chairmen. And so we got Darrell Issa is quitting. Ed Royce is retiring. I think there's 7 of them now. And the media is saying, well, that's all we need. I mean, these guys are expecting to lose. That's why they quit. And in fact, folks, to be boldly, brazenly honest, they may have a point. If you go back to 1995 and 96 and 97, how many Democrats retired from the House after Newt and the boys won control of it for the first time in 40 years? There were so many Democrats that they were switching parties, joining the Republican Party. Some were resigning, some were retiring, because it wasn't going to be any fun to not be in the majority. And there were a huge number of retirements. And there were a few Democrats that switched parties in the Senate, too. So this is why all of these Republican retirements are being portrayed as a harbinger that it's time for the noose for the Republican control of the House. That these guys know what's up. They know what's coming. They know they're going to get shellacked. And they said these Republicans like Issa and Ed Royce, it's not even guaranteed the Republicans are going to hold those seats. After all, we're talking about California. So the Republicans might lose those 2 seats in addition to whatever else they do. So this is why the conventional wisdom is all over the idea that the Democrats have already won it. But if you read the story, what you find out here is the Democrats don't have an agenda. What can they run on? What do the Democrats believe? I mean, this is going to be up to the RNC and whoever Trump has running the show. The Republicans are going to have a wily and crafty advertising campaign exposing the Democrats. What do the Democrats support? There's not a single one of them that voted for the tax cut. So you could run an ad. Democrats don't want you keeping more of your own money. Democrats want continued illegal immigration from S-hole countries all over the world. The Democrats do not want to stop illegal immigration. The Democrats have no problem with massive drug traffic across our borders. The Democrat Party wants to give sanctuary to criminals and thugs from all over Central America in major American cities. The Democrat Party stands for and supports more crime. The Democrat Party is in favor of high taxes and ending your tax cut. The Democrat Party wants to reinstitute Obamacare and recreate the British healthcare system. The Democrat Party believes in lower paychecks. The Democrat Party believes in depleting your 401k again. The Democrat Party thinks that it was unfair that some Americans got a bonus because of the tax cut and others didn't. That money belongs to the government for increased and continuing government services. The Democrats believe in higher unemployment for African Americans. However you word this, to me, this doesn't seem very difficult to do. If the Republicans can outmaneuver Democrats on these issues, and this is, I have been straight up and down accurate on with Democrats' positions on all these issues. The Democrat Party needs its butt kicked. The Democrat Party needs to be stopped. This country cannot afford the Democrat Party returning to the majority and remain the America it's always been. The RNC has been raising a lot of money. The DNC can't raise any, and they're in serious danger of collapse. And they had better be preparing these ad campaigns right now. And that money that they have raised is because of Donald Trump. Then they had better stop acting embarrassed of Trump, if there are any of them who still are. And they'd better get started on this campaign now, because the drive-by media is never going to characterize the Democrat Party as I just did. The Democrat Party is never going to be characterized in a truthful way by the drive-by media, which is who knows how much free media they're going to get. There needs to be a marketing and branding campaign beginning right now with the Democrat Party as the target. It's going to be needed to combat the 99% negative coverage the Republicans are going to get and Trump is going to get. The Democrats can search for a winning playbook, but the only one they really have is "we hate Trump." And they're going to try to parlay that into a majority of Americans hating Trump and Republicans and sending Democrats back to office simply to get rid of the hate or to mobilize the hate for Trump. We'll see. We're going to see just how much the Democrats really believe all of this by watching how they behave when Trump and the Republicans propose legislation. Because if they really think they're going to win in 2018, they shouldn't agree to anything. They should not make one agreement on any legislative proposal unless they get everything in it they want. If they really think they're going to win both houses or even not just the House in November, there's no reason to do anything. Just wait until they run the show and then get everything they want. We'll see if they do. Well, that's it, folks. Sadly, we're on a busy broadcast now. I didn't leave too much on the table, but I still have the Climoji to do. And there's a couple other big things, but there's always tomorrow. If you're on a diet, there's always tomorrow. So, and we'll be here tomorrow. Can't wait. In fact, only 21 hours. See you then.